and put that down for the delay. So don't look at yourself, don't worry about that. I'll watch you from here.
It's 2 o'clock. Welcome to our webinar. Ashley, could I ask you a quick question before we start? Actually, could you mute me or mute yourself? Sorry. Brilliant, thank you. So it's 2 o'clock. Welcome to our webinar on Business Zone. Really glad you can join us. I'm Rachel, I'm the small business editor. You may have seen me around the site, and I'm here today with Ashley Driver from Xero. Ashley is going to be giving a presentation on how to manage your cash flow in the cloud, some of the benefits, and other bits about cash flow in the cloud. I can answer some of your questions at the very end. It should last about half an hour, and I'll hand you over to Ashley. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, make sure I take myself off mute there. So I will just share my screen. Thanks for the introduction. I'll just pop this up there, and we should get going. So let's get the slides up. So what I'm going to cover today is a presentation, as Rachel has mentioned, around cash flow in the cloud. So is everyone able to, are you able to see the screen okay? Just check with you, Rachel.
Yep, I can see perfect.
Perfect, excellent. Oh, hold on, just back up, there we go. So I'm Ashley, thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us this afternoon for this presentation. So I'm an education specialist here at Xero. So I've been working at Xero for about 3 years. So all things Xero, all things education. Part of my role is to help design and deliver content on behalf of Xero, as well as working with the great guys at BusinessZone and the pitch as well, and support them at their events. So what we're going to go through this afternoon is firstly take a look at how the cloud is really being used to make sure all of the information within the accounting is a lot more automated and a lot more up to date. Now, of course, if you're using and if the information is always up to date, then you can really use that to plan ahead and maintain the cash flow for your small businesses. So the first thing, small businesses are really important, not only in the UK, but globally. You can see here that more than 99% of the 5 million small businesses in the UK or businesses in the UK are small to medium enterprises. 77% of small to medium businesses really drive around about 77% of the total job creation. So you can see how important it really is to drive economy in the UK, let alone globally as well. So it's really important to make sure that small businesses are being managed correctly, and in particular cash flow, as we're focusing on this afternoon. However, all businesses do struggle, cash flow being one of those, which we are going to focus on this afternoon, but that could also be recruiting the right individuals, maintaining stock flow. There's a whole host of different struggles and problems that businesses can encounter. Really interesting on designing this presentation, 56% of invoices from larger companies are paid on average 17 days late, so 17 days past their due date. Now that can really kind of restrict cash flow for small businesses and really inhibit their growth. And you can also see on this slide as well, around £32 billion worth are owed to small businesses in late payments. And again, that's a huge amount of cash sitting there, what can really be injected into small businesses to help their cash flow and help their growth. A really interesting slide when I was putting this presentation together from the Office of National Statistics is actually the enterprise or small business survival rates over a 5-year period. So you can see there, first year, around 92% of businesses will survive. Going all the way down, when you span over to the 5th year there, only around 41% of small businesses actually survive that 5 years. And it's really interesting. And one of the things, in my opinion, that really will impact that is the cash flow of a business. So as you can see, my little friend Wilson on there. So the cash flow, in my opinion, is the key to survival. So the first part of this presentation, what we're going to really focus on is how can you use the cloud in order to get the information into the accounts automate the accounting process, which you can do a lot more these days with technology, which also has other benefits of freeing up time. So you can actually focus on planning your or budgeting and maintaining your cash flow a little bit more. But what we're really starting to see in the UK, specifically with Xero, is we've seen so much more adoption of UK banks. So you can see here some of our partner bank feeds. Now, what this allows a business or accountant or bookkeeper to do is you've got the live data coming into Xero every single day. So by using that real-time information, you can then actually create the accounts from that data as that's updated every single day. And as long as you keep the bookkeeping up to date and you're always on top with the reconciliation process, and when we look a little bit later, don't forget you're not tied behind a desk with the cloud. You can do it anytime, anywhere. You can be using an application to do your reconciliation. And by using that raw bank statement data, if you know that you're always up to date with all of your bank statement lines, you know all the information that you're looking at in your accounts is up to date, which then has a knock-on effect because you can really make key and accurate decisions and plan effectively your cash flow going forward and the health of your business. Interestingly, what we're also starting to see in some other areas in the globe, especially places like Australia, but the banks are coming in the UK to this kind of way of thinking. Definitely the cloud is the way to go. But what we're seeing already is that banks tend to only kind of connect with the medium and large businesses. Now, relating that to cash flow, if you need a business loan or you want some capital or that injection into the business, if you're maybe a startup, that can be really, really hard to gain that traction, put that business plan together and walk into the bank and for them to take you seriously or consider you lending that money. But what we're starting to see, and as you can see on here, small businesses are often too risky, often too costly, inefficient, and often too small as well, again, if you relate that to the startups. But because you can utilize the information in the cloud, and if we link it back to the slide that we just looked at with the real-time information from the bank feeds, along with the up-to-date information and maybe a business advisor, an accountant or bookkeeper, banks will often, and they're starting to trust the information that is being provided to them and what's in the accounts in order to start kind of considering startups and smaller businesses for that capital. So it's opening up new doors. Now, of course, what we are also starting to see in the potential going forward for this as well is because you have all of the accounts in the cloud, you can provide maybe the bank with a read-only access. So not only can they see the business or management report, but they could actually access and view the accounts themselves to make those decisions. So you're going to see quite a lot of change over the next 2 or 3 years. So the way that the banks and small businesses relationships are going to be going forward. And it's great to see that technology and the cloud are really kind of impacting that lending decision and that initial capital injection. So HMRC have also kind of woken up at last to the cloud idea as well. So our last budget, by 2020, businesses will also be able to manage all of their taxes together. Again, another link to cash flow. If you can maintain all of your tax and all of your information relating to HMRC, VAT returns can automatically be uploaded already. But being able to have that information and all of it being in the cloud, you've got much better clarity over that information in order to plan when you're going to pay your tax and calculate it and things like that. The great thing with Xero and with working in the cloud as well is not only can you have all of your real-time information coming in from what you're receipting or what you're expensing, your actual sales and other businesses processes can be connected up as well. And specifically, Xero is kind of moving away from just an accounting platform. It's really more of a business platform. And how I'm relating this back to cash flow here is because you can set up add-on partners. So for example, if you had a retail outlet, you could have vendors running your point of sale. So what this means is every single day, all of the sales transactions are being published into Xero. You've got all of the real-time information from the bank. And then again, you're keeping the information up to date and it's being kind of automated. Not only does that mean that you're looking at that information in real time, and then you can relate that back to planning and budgeting and all the things that I've just mentioned, but you can then also free up that time to be able to do things like that. So data is already being exchanged both ways on platforms like Xero. So specifically some tips how you can survive and how you can kind of plan and maintain your cash flow. So this is where the juicy bit comes in. We've had all the theory. So first things first, plan ahead. I think I've kind of hinted on that already, but it's important to make sure that you don't just overlook something like a budget. Budgets don't take long to prepare, especially if you've got historical budgets in place, because you can often just mark them up, or you can add a percentage on for the next year and then really replicate that going forward. So once you've got that budget in place, don't just then ignore it. Make sure that you're looking at it on a regular basis and you're tracking against it, and make sure you're comparing it against what you're actually doing. So for example, you could run a budget variance report. There's some great KPIs that you could go and have a look on there and see exactly how you're tracking. Again, because you're using that information and it's all in real time, the budget will automatically and always be up to date. Also, cash flow statements. There are some great add-on partners I just mentioned that can be connected to cloud solutions, which can then extract that data and then actually form those cash flow statements for you. You don't have to do it manually. Again, you've got those add-on partners there that can really automate that for you as well. Some great solutions that are available. Float comes on the top of my head, and that can be connected to your cloud solution. You can even do some of the add-on providers like what if scenarios and things like that. So hopefully you're getting across that working in the cloud allows you to have that real-time clarity of information, and you can really start to automate almost your planning of your cash flow as long as you keep up to date with things. Okay, this is probably my favorite and my biggest tip for you. This is payment terms. It's really, really important to make sure that you're focused on your payment terms and you've analyzed them correctly and they are set, and you're not too lenient with your customers. Obviously, you don't want to be really angry with them and chase them up and have bad relationships with your customers, but you do need to be on their case. The more time that you've got your money tied up in your debtors and your age receivables, the less time and the less time you have that in the business. So we did a analytic quite a while ago now, but it is still very relevant, and you can go and check this out on the Xero homepage. Now, you probably won't be able to see that too clearly, but if I zoom in, you can see there that if you want to be paid on 30 days, which is kind of I suppose the average expectant payment term for a small business, you wouldn't ever go really into 60 days. You may very well have less, but I suppose the average is that 30. With those analytics, you can see there that the kind of ideal payment term, taking into account the days that the customer potentially would pay you late, is actually 13 days. So that's the niche payment term. So I'd probably make that 14 days if it's me, but as you can see there, 13 days. So make sure that you choose that wisely and you're chasing up with your customers. Again, relating back to cloud, relating back to Xero, you can even get add-on partners that will connect to your Xero organization that will do all of your data chasing for you. So there's a solution for everything these days. And the more solutions that you can put in place, you can completely automate your business in effect. And it's almost running itself, as long as you're still doing the work, obviously. What we're also seeing, especially some features in these cloud packages, again, specifically Xero in this case, is what we call a cycle of innovation. So there are a set of features in Xero that can also be used to impact your kind of cash flow, because you can get payment sooner. So for example, in this particular case, the cycle of innovation, you can generate what we call a smart list. So you can, it's kind of the first start of the sales process. So you can generate a list of customers that you can use for example, proactive marketing. You then can turn that into a quote, and the kind of shining star for people and small businesses using Xero is the online invoicing. So you can send your customer out an invoice from Xero. You can also then connect up the payment services. So for example, PayPal, Payment Express, eWay, there's lots of different ones that you can connect. And what that does is it facilitates the payment via Xero. So Xero will also come back in and apply the payment to the invoice. Now, again, what we've seen is 2 years ago, it took on average around about 59 days for an average invoice to get paid. Now, using these automated features in this way and being able to facilitate payment through your accounting solution, you're actually seeing, and what we're starting to see, is that's almost knocked off up to 2 weeks off of those debtor days and waiting for that payment. Now, immediately, if you could save that 2 weeks of getting those receipts in from your customers, think about the potential knock-on effect to your liquidity and the cash that you will have in your business. It will allow you to do so much more just by with those 2 weeks. Okay. Again, another thing close to my heart, working for Xero and being qualified accountant, is the accounting. So make sure you don't bury your head in the sand. That's the first thing. And as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to be tied behind a desk anymore to do your accounting. We get some great tweets from some of our users from doing their reconciliation out and about on the go. Some of them even in bed, although don't really want to see bed selfies, but they're great to see though. And because people can have access to this technology, they are able to do it. It's exactly the same as the payment services, as I've just mentioned. If you provide somebody the feature or the technology to do something, they're more likely just to do it. And again, this is exactly the same for the accounting. There isn't really an excuse anymore not to keep on top of it, because even from using your iOS device and using Xero Touch, you can do that reconciliation process even before you've got out of bed in the morning. And again, linking that back, if you keep all the information up to date, you're looking at the real-time information, and you can then plan that cash flow much more effectively. One thing never to do is to hope you like my little ostrich there. One thing never to do, and this often happens when people, and it often happens quite a lot, is when people kind of fall into small business occasionally. So they kind of start to do, their hobby turns into their job. And before you know it, you're 3 years down the line, you're still using an Excel spreadsheet, and you just keep getting further and further behind. Don't bury your head in the sand. There is so much, there's so much advice, there's so much help out there. You can reach out to them. And again, by using a cloud-based solution, you can collaborate in real time. So you can have a limited users working on platforms, again, specifically Xero, and you can look at the information all in real time. So if you do have an accountant or a bookkeeper or a business advisor, or even your wise old grandma, you can get them all logged in, and they can be looking at that data and analyzing it with you. They could be helping you plan the budget out. They can be looking at your profit and loss, and they can be giving you real time and valued advice. So don't bury your head in the sand. So as I mentioned throughout, some of the benefits from working in the cloud and helping that relate back to the information, real-time collaboration. So you've got anytime advice. You can engage with your accountant directly on the platform, so directly in Xero, and you're looking at that data all at the same time. And I think the key really for small businesses is that automating element. If you plan effectively and you do your research, there are so many areas in the business these days that you can automate, and that will save you so much time, and you can do so much more with that time. And of course, you've got some great features available which are inbuilt in Xero to analyze your data. For example, we've just recently launched the business performance dashboard, which is a great place that you can go and have a look at a lot of KPIs. Okay, don't stagnate. So that's kind of relating back to reaching out for help. You can reach out to things like crowdfunding if you're really, your liquidity and your cash flow is quite poor. Again, we've also got some emerging add-ons these days that will connect to Xero, and we'll take a look at those invoices maybe that are overdue, you can't get the debt in, and they will kind of give you the money up front, and they'll kind of chase the debt for you. So you've obviously with a percentage fee, but then they will give you that cash straight away. So it really can help with that short-term liquidity if you do have those cash flow problems. You've also got government enterprise schemes, something that the government have introduced for people excess money, they can invest it into businesses. Really useful to, again, increasing that liquidity, factoring companies. And I think the best and the key thing on this slide is really to have that advisor and mentor. You can't really, it's invaluable to have that in a business. So definitely look to get that. Okay. Last but not least, that is kind of wrapping up on the presentation. But the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And I think that's a good little quote just to finish with. So you need to be passionate about running a small business. And if you are passionate, you will be concerned about entering budgets and keeping up to date with your information and not burying your head in the sand. So if you keep that, then you'll be good. So thank you. And I think we are going to questions now, aren't we?
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much, Ashley. Yeah, that was brilliant. And we've had a few questions in already, and we've had some tweets as well. So thanks to everyone who participated. Brilliant. Shall I fire on with the first question?
Grace.
Excellent. So someone called Robin, who's been watching the webinar, has asked, how do I set up my payment terms? And what would you advise her to do?
So your payment terms, that's a nice easy one. Thank you for breaking me in gently there. So payment terms tend to be on your sales invoices. So it will be something that you would just kind of put on your invoice branding theme at the bottom of there. You may, in some cases, if it is maybe kind of a big debt, you may have a credit agreement in place for the payment terms. But if you're talking about the odd invoice here or not too much money, then it would just be kind of declaration on the sales invoice just to say, I expect payment in 14 days, 30 days, etc.
Excellent. That's a nice easy one. Thanks so much, Ashley. We've got a couple more questions in here as well. So another one in from Rob Stark on what happened to the prompt payment scheme.
The prompt payment scheme, I'm not sure about that one. So
that's okay.
Can't advise on that, I'm afraid.
That's no worries. Lucky enough, we have a couple more. And there's someone asking here, how do they move out of Excel? Is that a more technical one?
No, that's cool. So again, the great thing about working in the cloud is you can very easily manipulate the data into some of the templates. So you can really import the data really quickly and easily into Xero to convert from Excel over onto a solution. Of course, that's a great opportunity to reach out to your accountant because they will be able to help you with that conversion and get you moved over. And really would recommend getting off Excel. Really hard to have the clarity of information and analyze where your business is and for that growth. So move over. But yeah, easy to import it or reach out to your accountant or bookkeeper.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So we have a final question here actually as well, which kind of relates to finding an accountant or a bookkeeper. So someone is asking how to find an advisor or a mentor, or is that one for a separate conversation?
No, it's good. I mean, I could share my screen again, but what you can do, I mean, there are various places. Google is a good start, but if you are using Xero, you do have on the Xero homepage at the top, you can go and find accountants and bookkeepers in your local area. And again, they're all on our partner program. They've all been approved. But yeah, so there are great areas to go and have a look at. But that's a good one to start, in my opinion, because use Xero.
Excellent. And I think our lovely friend Rob Stark has expanded on his prompt payment scheme question as well. It was prompt payment code, I think he was asking about.
Prompt payment code. Still haven't got a clue.
Okay.
I'm not going to try to stab in the dark.
Sorry, no worries. No worries. Yeah, we'll try and get you an answer to that one, Rob. We don't have it.
I mean, I could talk about. I mean, it might be referring to prompt payment discount, but I'm not sure whether that it is a bit. I mean, again, it's a good point to raise if you are talking about that, because what you can do is, say, for example, on your sales invoices for your customers. You can set a discount. So if they pay you within your payment term, you can give them 5% discount off of their invoice. So if that's what they're talking about, that is a useful tool to have in your back pocket if you are running into cash flow difficulties. So good point if that was mentioned. If not, sorry.
That's fantastic. No, thanks very much for that, Ashley. And we have had another question come in while we've been talking as well. And it's a kind of a more technical one. I think you might have mentioned it as well in your presentation or in your question. But Jamie's asking, what can you do in the cloud that you can't do in Excel?
What can you do in the cloud that you can't do in Excel? Okay. So where do I start really? So you can, the good thing with Excel is that you can manipulate your data really easy. But if you're comparing with Excel with an accounting solution, for example, like Xero, the problem you have in Excel is that you have just a mass of data there. So it's really hard to kind of drill down, kind of analyze the business. And often is the case, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've used Excel in the past where I used to work. Often the case would be, it would be full of errors as well. So not only are potential errors there, and it's hard to read the data, but you haven't got the real-time information in there either. So you're always looking in your rearview mirror. So if, for example, you might as well using back of a fag packet or using a piece of paper, because all you're doing is you're looking historically, you're recording transactions that have happened. And by having the information into Xero in real time, again, you can't do that necessarily in Excel unless you're constantly looking at your bank statements all the time, literally glued to them. But you can have that information in real time there. So I think that's the main thing, having the information in real time, being able to automate your processes so you're not looking at a spreadsheet, I don't know, a couple of hours every day. You can save all of that time and use the real-time information to invest into your business and make it grow.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that answer, Ashley. And the last question, very last question of today, I promise, is do you back up the cloud?
Okay, that's a really interesting one. It's often, when I first started working at Xero, it was a question that came up quite a lot because cloud was kind of this mysterious thing. Nowadays, it's a lot more inherent. People use it with apps and things like that. I think that's one thing that's kind of changed the conversations around what the cloud is. But in terms of data and backing it up, I can't speak for all cloud providers, but I know Xero, we continually back up the data. So it's constantly being backed up. So it's all secure. The data is yours. And what we also have is we have a multi-location server base. Without getting too technical, what that means is the data is stored in more than one location. So if something did happen or something did go wrong, we've got data recovery there. So you wouldn't even feel any different to the service, and the data is all safe. And again, if you do compare that to an Excel or a kind of a desktop solution, it's a hell of a lot more secure. You think about it, if you're running a business on a laptop or on a computer and it gets stolen and you drop it down the toilet, I'm not sure you would drop a laptop on the toilet though, but if you dropped it, then it would, or it got stolen, you wouldn't be able to replace that data if you didn't back it up. And even if you do back it up, occasionally that can also corrupt as well. So data is all there, you can access it 24/7. You've got your secure email and password there. Again, make sure you set a secure password and you don't share that around. Yeah, all safe and sound.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashley. As I said, that was the last question. So unless there's anything else you'd like to add about your presentation or about any of the questions you received today, I think it's a wrap.
No, I just thank everyone for taking the time to watch it this afternoon. Really appreciate your time, know how valuable it is, and hopefully you found it useful. Don't forget, you can go and find lots of information about running your small business on Xero.com, and you can go and have a look at the small business guides. Particularly, there is a cash flow small business guide there, and lots of valuable information. So go check that out.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashley, and thanks to everyone who took part in the webinar today. Cheers, and see you later.